it again. We're going back to Omaha. And it's on to the College World Series Final. The 2015 National Champions.
And welcome into another edition of 1186, the podcast, the official podcast of the UVA baseball program. The local 9 broke that losing streak last night by beating Stanford. By the way, let me timestamp this. It is Friday, March 28th. I am Damon Dillman, joined by Andrew Ramspacher. And our special guest this week is Arizona Diamondbacks outfielder Jake McCarthy. But before we introduce Jake formally, let me just mention that the Who's broke that losing streak last night against Stanford. They're back at home again tonight, second game of a 3-game series. And with that, let's welcome in officially Jake McCarthy, who played some baseball last night as well, opened up the season with the Arizona Diamondbacks at home against the Cubs. Jake, how are you? Thanks for joining us, man.
I'm doing well. Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. We were joking about it, but I think for full transparency, we should probably mention right off the top that, as you know, Andrew and I are both big Phillies fans, and we hold you personally accountable for the 2023 National League Championship Series. Every time we'd see you there on the top step of the dugout, we'd be texting each other like, "Oh, there's Jake again." So yeah, it might cloud this conversation a little bit.
Hey, I was hurt, so I had nothing to do with that.
Paven though, had
that
a
is
little
true.
bit to do with that.
That's why
Paven played.
Paven's not.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Paven had not been on. That's right. He was punished for that. Yeah, he had some big pinch hits in that series that I'll never forget, unfortunately. But no, that was yeah. Your dad got the wrath of some of those texts too. So
yeah, we were letting him hear about it as well.
Contact you personally, but your father did get.
That's fine.
Some of those messages.
He can handle it.
He can certainly handle it. He's heard worse, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we were saying, you opened up the season last night at home against the Cubs. You got another game tonight. Let's start. I'm just out of curiosity. You're at your house right now, right?
Yes.
What is game day like for you as a Major League Baseball player? Like once you jump off this, what's the rest of your day look like until the first pitch is thrown?
I normally our normal time is 6:40. Last night was a little later because we had intros, but get to the field around 1:30. And then at that point, it's just sort of any way to get my body prepped. You know, I think depending on the day, it could be different, but maybe get a lift in. And then we have like team organized stuff around 3:00, whether it's batting practice, infield, outfield, whatever. And then normally that wraps up around 4:30, and then you kind of just got time to eat and hang out before our 6:40 game. So depending on, you know, where we're at in the season, what time the game's at, some days, you know, it's a little later to the field, some days a little earlier.
How many opening days now have you been a part of?
I think this is 4. That was 4 yesterday. Okay. Yeah.
Does that ever get old? Does that like what was the first one like for you? Like what is that feeling? I mean, obviously it's kind of like this nostalgia thing. Like places in Cincinnati have like it's like a holiday. Like it's different around different parts of the country. What's it like in Arizona?
No, it's great. We could still open the roof this early in the year, so we had a flyover. There's a lot of pageantry that comes with opening day. This is, I think, out of the 4, we've spent 3 at home, so that's been really cool. We were in LA 2 years ago, so like they put on a big show, but it's definitely exciting. There's a ton of anxious energy, but like I think once it starts, I think is my favorite part, where it's just kind of, you know, intros are over, all the, you know, the big national anthem, and you just play some baseball.
We were joking about it, and I know obviously you didn't get a chance to experience it on the field, but what was it like to be a part of that postseason run 2 years ago, to be a part of a run to the World Series like that?
Really cool. Especially like you go to a place like Philly, we went to LA, just being in the dugout for a World Series is like, it's stuff you dream of. It doesn't really, you know, like I said, I feel like when you watch a World Series on TV, it feels like the biggest thing in the world, but it was interesting. Like once it starts and you're in the dugout, it kind of just feels like another game. But then, you know, now that some time has gone by, you look back at it and you're like, that was a pretty big deal. You know, obviously we didn't finish the job, but definitely an experience that I'll look back on, you know, and be grateful for.
And that Diamondbacks team, I mean, you guys caught fire, right? I mean, caught fire kind of toward the end, and and carried that in to the playoffs, made it all the way to the World Series. Did it, your senior year of high school obviously was your brother's junior year at UVA in 2015. Did you was any kind of that vibe to it? I mean, your brother was part of that team that didn't light the world on fire in the regular season, but got hot at the right time and won it all. Similar, I guess, a little bit to that 2023 Diamondbacks team.
Yeah, for sure. I would even go as far as saying the 2014 when they lost would be your guess to the year that they would have won it, right? I just think they have more. And I feel like last year for the D-backs, we were one of the best teams in baseball all summer. And then, September, things happen and we missed the playoffs. So baseball is just a crazy game like that where, it's about getting hot at the right time. And, you play 162 games and you could miss the playoffs by one game or you're the team that gets hot at the right time and you get in by one game. So, it's definitely an interesting concept.
And I'm assuming optimism is pretty high around the clubhouse going into this year too, for all the reasons you just said, just missing last year, reaching the World Series 2 years ago. You bring in a guy like Corbin Burns and some of the other moves. I'm assuming you guys are feeling pretty optimistic out there right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're more than capable. We're talented. We lost guys like Jock and Christian Walker, which obviously hurts. But we got Naylor, Corbin Burns. I just think the guys that we've had in the clubhouse for the last few years have been great. So we're excited to get started. I know we got off to we lost last night, but I think we're excited for what we're going to accomplish this year.
I mentioned you being a senior in high school in 2015. I think the year before, right? You were out there too in 2014 when your brother made that first trip to Omaha during his illustrious career with the Who's. That was the first time I think Damon and I met you. You were hanging out with your
walking out of the RV every morning
with your parents out there in the RV lot across the river there in I guess what's that, Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Yeah.
In the casino lot. Tell us a little about your introduction to UVA baseball. Obviously, your brother played a gigantic role in that, but you had such a unique perspective because you were able to see it up close at the highest level, back-to-back years, and your 2 years leading into your first year at UVA, being out there in Omaha and supporting your brother.
Yeah, it definitely was a unique experience. I feel like I have, those 3 years of when Joe was there, and I felt like I was going down every weekend. I went down for Joe's official visit when he was a senior in high school. So I feel like I was also kind of familiar, friends with some of his teammates, had a relationship with the coaches, obviously. And then I started to get recruited and I'm there for my 3 years. So in a way, I feel like I have 6 or 7 years of affiliation with Virginia baseball. But, it's been cool. Artie Lewicki was a D-back. I'm trying to think of some other guys that, whether
Gossam.
It's through. Yeah.
Didn't Gossam play for the D-backs too?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just funny how, the range, the age group of guys that I'm friends with, I've played with, friends with Joe, or just guys that I've played with. It's definitely, it's unique for sure. I feel like I just have, 7 years of enrollment there.
When did you commit?
Going into my junior year. So I think it was summer of after my sophomore year.
Okay. So that would have been when Joe was a sophomore here, the 2014 team. Is that right?
I think it was fresh off of Joe winning ACC Freshman of the Year.
Okay, yeah.
2013.
And then I came down for I played for Baseball U, did a little showcase tournament, and that was when I committed.
Was it a tough choice?
No, no.
I didn't think so.
Because people ask this a lot, and it's because I didn't know if I wanted to play baseball or football, but I feel like Joe just having the success that he did, somewhat immediately there, I was just kind of all right, I want that for myself. So, luckily they offered me, and yeah, the rest is history.
You had a very obviously decorated high school football career in the state of Pennsylvania, to the point where I don't know if Damon, you've ever told him that, right? You were like retweeting some of his football highlights one
Yeah,
time,
Mac
and
used
Coach
to
Mack
yell at
got
me because who's the reporter from Scranton who would always tweet out your football stats from high school? Like you'd have like a 200-yard, 3-touchdown
Yeah, it's
game.
probably it's either Connor Foley or Joby Fawcett. Those were like the big names. I feel like, especially online.
Yeah, so you'd have these big games, and they'd tweet out these stats, and I'd retweet them, and Mac would be like, "Stop tweeting this stuff. He's gonna want to play football."
yeah.
Well,
How real was that?
I had an interview, like with the local news, where they were like, kind of asking, like, do you want to play football? Like, has ever crossed your mind? We know you're committed. And I forgot what I said, but I kind of gave like a vague answer, and I feel like I got a call from Oak like 2 days later, just being like, "Hey, what's this mean?" And I'm like, "Oh, nothing, coach. Can't wait to come down and play. I'm sorry."
How real was it though? Like, did you have offers? What were they like? How or because you committed to baseball so early that football programs kind of stayed away?
So, I like when people ask like what the offers were like, I feel like I committed so early for baseball where schools weren't necessarily coming in being like, "Hey, here's a full scholarship." It was more so, if you ever want to play football, here's our card, or we talked to your football coach here, give us a call. We would love to, like, so they were kind of offering me, but it was more so just like showing interest. It was a lot of like Big Ten schools in the Northeast. And then depending on like, what you consider recruiting, whether it was a phone call or if they would come to practice, there were some teams out west, down south, but it's kind of, vague from, when people ask how many offers you had, it's like, I don't really know.
Did you, go ahead, Andrew.
I was going to say your career though, while you were playing in Pennsylvania as a running back, right? When there's someone else who has gone on to have a pretty good career as a running back in the NFL at that time that you were competing with on all state teams and stuff like that?
Yeah. I love like, cause I just like peaked in high school. Love the like my all state class for like quad A in Pennsylvania. There's just like 8 guys in the NFL. And I just love being like, "Oh yeah, well, like if I played, I would," just love just assuming because I was good at, high school football that I would have the same careers as some of those guys. But it's it's like, it's Barkley, obviously,
Right.
Miles Sanders.
That's why you said quad A. I got that.
Yeah. Quad. DeMar Hamlin, Ben DiNucci.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of NFL names on there, and I just try to sneak right into same guy.
Did you ever think about trying to play both here at UVA?
Not necessarily. I think there was some interest. I forget who I spoke to. It was maybe like one of the offensive line coaches or offensive coordinators. And Oak said like you could if you want to go down that road. But I think we talked about it, and I just, if I wanted to get a lot better at baseball, which I think I needed to at that point, I just think I needed to be doing baseball, year round.
And the other piece of that, right, is you got hurt your senior year of high school, right?
Yes.
Football?
Yes.
Yeah.
Broke my foot like halfway through the season.
What was that? Was that? And obviously, coaches have been, Oak, Mac, what have you, they've always recruited guys that have played multiple sports. They encourage it to a point, I guess. So it's not like they were anti you playing football at that time. When you got hurt, though, what was that? What was that call like? How did they receive it? And then how did that kind of impact, I don't know, your arrival? Obviously, it was so far out until you got here. So maybe it didn't impact anything at all.
Yeah. No, I'll say that. Like, that's what I loved about the program was I remember, like, when I committed, they were like, "You're going to keep playing basketball. You're going to keep playing football. We think being competitive year round is super valuable." And obviously, like, you don't want to get hurt. I broke my foot, so it's like, I guess there's some concern there, but I went to the doctor and they were like, "This should heal up fine. This shouldn't like interfere with, anything at the next level or whatever." And I think, I communicated that through the coaching staff, Oak and Mac and them. And, I don't think there was ever any real concern, but I do appreciate them, urging me to continue to play 3 sports. Cause I look back at those memories and, they were obviously very valuable.
So when you think back on your time here, cause like from my perspective, it seems like you got here and you were like almost instantly gone. Obviously there were some times when you weren't on the field, when you were hurt, you missed most of that freshman year, a lot of time your junior year. But when you think back on your time here, what do you think of when you think about your time here at UVA?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's 2 sides of it. Obviously, we didn't make the playoffs when I was a third year. Like injuries. I just think, especially after, being a part of going to the College World Series, watching Joe play, the success he had, I think it fell short of like my own expectations of what I wanted. But I also just think, it's just a super valuable organization, coaching staff, college experience to, be there for 3 years and be tested every single day and be held accountable. So I think, like you said, I feel like it went by pretty fast too. I feel like, I wish I spent more time on the field. I wish we went on a College World Series run, something like that. But, I definitely am super grateful for everything I learned and the people I've met. And that's sort of the kind of, what I want to take away from it. Now we're getting 7-8 years down the road. And I try to be positive and, think of all the things that went well for me there.
I want to ask you a question about playing with Ernie Clement in a second. Before that, what you were talking about earlier reminded me of the great Ernie Clement story about the time where he kind of missed a voluntary workout and happened to play intramural football with some of his dorm buddies one time and paid the price for it. But did you ever? Obviously, you didn't play real football at UVA. But did you ever get involved in any intramural football games, like maybe those before you?
No intramural football games.
Okay.
My freshman year, my dorm was right across from the AFC, so I probably played a little too much basketball for anyone's liking. But other than that, it was just like class to the field, home, repeat. But that freshman year, I feel like it was just the AFC was just staring at me.
All right, so that 2017 season, the one season where you were fully healthy, that team, Jake, you can probably talk about it now because Damon and I have talked. Remember it back then. You guys got jobbed with the seating. Still to this day, I think that team had so much more potential.
It did give us Oak in the cowboy hat. That was the only positive that came out of that.
And Paven, remember Paven's tweet went viral? That was awesome.
Yes, yeah. After the selection committee came out. And so for those who don't maybe not recall, but this is a UVA team that won. I believe you guys were 41-17, something like that. Yeah. Ranked top 10 in the country. Had just beat Clemson in the ACC tournament.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Selection show comes out that first night. They named the regional hosts, and you're not one of them. So I think that's when Pavin sent the tweet because Clemson got a host, and you guys had just beat them.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, right, is selection Monday, and not only are you guys on the road, you get sent to I think the number 4 national seed halfway across the country.
And this
was
TCU. Were they still only seeding the top 8 back then, or were they doing 16 by this point? I think
it was only top 8.
That's what I thought. I didn't think that had started yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucked.
What was that like? I mean, obviously, at the time, right? Like, well, you guys said all the right things. I mean, obviously, Pavin tweeted his emotion. I think he played that off, though, at a press conference and saying something about a Chipotle order. Do you remember that, David?
Yes, he did.
Yes, that's what he said.
Yep.
So I think we're far enough away from it where I can out there. It's fine.
I don't think Mac's going to come knocking on your door.
That had to be, just naturally, right? That had to just be kind of like a shot in the gut a little bit because, especially for you, you had got hurt the year before. You watched your brother's teams the 2 years before that advance to Omaha. You're part of this team that had, I mean, I look at the batting order. Your top 4 in the batting order end up all being big leaguers, super talented team, arguably the best offense in the country. And you just get this really bad luck, this bad draw of the selection committee. What was that like in that moment? And obviously you're a competitor, like, all right, whatever, we'll take them on. But like looking back on it, like, how do you recall all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's fair to say that like I don't think that was the fairest slot, but I think it's like you play who you play, and I think there was maybe a few minutes of frustration and why is this happening? But I think at some point we probably would have had to play TCU or DBU, whoever it was. So that was an electric atmosphere, by the way. I still say that to this day, like. Between that and like maybe when we went down to UCF for the opening weekend the following year, those were electric environments to play in. But didn't it rain for like a week straight down there too? Yeah, a lot of bizarre stuff going on. But obviously I wish it went differently. But yeah, it is what it is. What could have been.
The rain was tough, but that season just as a whole, forget the ending for a second. Think about the top 4 in that lineup, and it was obviously Ernie. I don't know if you guys flipped or flopped at 1 and 2, but
back and forth, wouldn't you?
And Taven in the 4 hole, like all 4 make the big leagues. 3 of you guys are still veterans now in the big leagues. Like, how fun was that? I mean, the lineup was great 1 through 9, but those 4 you guys day in day out. How fun was that to be around those 3 guys?
Yeah, it was awesome. I feel like I got off to I have 20 stolen bases. I feel like very early into that season, and then we were like, hey, Hazley and Paven are just gonna hit you in from first base, so you probably don't have to steal anymore. But it was super fun because I feel like on top of you could look at the numbers, but it was also crazy. I think Ernie struck out 7 times that year.
Yes.
Paven had more home runs than strikeouts, and I don't know. And then Hazley hit 400. So I don't know. It was very fun, and it was just if I can get on base, I'm probably scoring. And then you alluded to it. You're talking about 1 through 4, but the rest of the lineup was also really, really good. We had
Simmons
Weber
was a beast that year. Yes,
Simmons went nuts. I think for the majority of the year, Weber was hitting 9-hole and he hit 300, and it was a 4th or 5th round pick. So I don't know. It was super fun to be a part of.
Robbie Coleman was still around for that team too, right?
Yes. Yeah. Coleman was our 5 or 6 hole hitter.
Yeah.
He probably hit 350 too. It was a fun year.
So how much do you think, and I mean, this is kind of the cliche question that we always ask you guys when you come on, but how much do you think your time here in this program sort of set the table for helping you advance to where you are now in your baseball career? And not just in your baseball career, but we hear it all the time, but as a man.
Yeah, no, I think UVA, especially when I got there, I needed that program to kind of, I think the baseball term is I was raw. And I just think there were a ton of things that I needed to learn that are, super, super valuable for what I'm doing right now. And it's we can get into your baseball approach, your hitting approach. I remember one of my first days, practices my freshman fall, we were having a bunt scrimmage, and I fouled off a bunch, and then we after practice, Oak and Mac were talking about, we're if you can't bunt, you can't play here. And then it's I remember being super nervous during bunts. I would see it on the schedule and I would be oh no, here we go again. But now it's when I have to lay down a bunt in Dodger Stadium or whatever, it's I feel that is directly, I'm almost more nervous. I'm looking back at a bunt scrimmage in our football, indoor, than, when there's 50,000 people watching. So it's just stuff like that. And just the constant accountability of, every single day, your teammates are relying on you. Your coaches are asking a lot of you. I just think that is invaluable, because I just think whether it's baseball, some guys are now just working other jobs. I just think that type of approach is super, super valuable.
Speaking of working other jobs, want to tell everybody an update on your brother and what he's up to?
Yeah, if anyone needs insurance in the city of Scranton, we can put an ad. We'll put an ad at the bottom for Joe's insurance.
Brought to you by.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's Joe's doing great. Joe's quite the golfer now, but he's back in Scranton. I don't know if he's officially retired. Like, I don't know if he went through. I don't know if that's like paperwork or whatever, but he's been done playing for a couple of years now, and he's doing well.
I wanted to ask you, I was thinking about this the other day, and this is kind of random, but when you're all over the country now playing with people from all over the country, when they find out you're from Scranton, how often do they default back to asking you about the office?
Yeah, it's actually in baseball, because we have like the AAA Yankees and it was the AAA Phillies. That's normally like, it's like it'll be some older guy. He'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've spent too much time in Scranton," something like that. But it's normally like, "Wow, there's really good golf there. The field's nice. It's super cold the beginning of the year." But yeah, then it's the office, or it's like, that's a real place. So but it always seems like their ears kind of perk up when I tell them where I'm from.
What was it like, though? Because everywhere they talk about on that show, like Lake Wallenpaupack or Carbondale or whatever, those are all real places. What was it like growing up with, these real places being talked about on this show that everybody was watching?
It was really cool. There's an episode where they just like show like the newspaper, and it was like actually just one of like the papers that I don't know when it was from, but it was funny. It was like the sports page, and it was just like the local football teams, and I just think they had it in the back of a shop. But they did a really good job of, like, they talk about Poor Richard's Pub, like I've been there. Did the Alfredo's Pizza. It's like all of it is real. There's a scene where like Dwight talks about he like takes a shot at like Carbondale. She's like, "Oh,
that's the episode I had on the other night,and I immediately thought of you."
What is it? She's a
receptionist from Carbondale or whatever.
Yeah, my mom's from Carbondale, so it's just like, it's super funny.
I thought of you immediately. I was like, I remember Jake McCarthy used to say that all the time.
Yeah,
it's such a damning insult.
Yeah, it's funny.
Besides the office, the other origin that is still with you, or a part of Scranton that's still with you, I think, right? The number 31. I don't know if we've ever asked you this, but obviously your brother wore it, you wore it. I think you guys wore it in high school too. Maybe you wore it after he left.
Your sister wore it too, right?
Yeah,
your sister wore it. What is the significance of? Obviously, you wear it at the Diamondbacks. I think you were 30 your rookie year, and then you switched it to 31.
Ian Kennedy was 31, and then he left, so I hopped on that.
Yeah, what is the significance of it? Why is it so meaningful to your family?
I just think. Well, I think like me being the youngest, I just kind of fell into it. But when we started playing sports, I just feel like my dad always wore 31 growing up. He just said it was his lucky number. And then he found a way to coach my sister, Joe, me. So it was just like anytime we could get it, we wore 31. And I remember going to Morgan's like softball games or soccer games, whatever it was. Joe always wore 31. So when it came time for me to pick my own numbers for Little League or something like that, I had no choice. So, but it's super cool. Like both of my parents, obviously, have done everything they possibly could to make this dream for me possible. So it's cool that I could wear that number. It's a representation of my family and where I'm from.
I feel like we have to ask now, especially because obviously you were talking about how long you were making that trip down 81 from Scranton, but for your parents, it was the same way. They were a part of the UVA fabric of the community for 6 years there between you and your brother. I'm sure they're still fondly remembered at the DoubleTree as well. But yeah, how are your parents?
They're great. They got to get back down to Charlottesville, but same old. They're both retired now. My mom just retired last summer, so they're doing great. They're grandparents now, so they got that going on. They're super excited, but they're still just staying up trying to catch all nine innings of my games. I was on the phone with them yesterday before opening day, And I was saying they like when I get a hit in my first at bat because they can kind of relax and maybe go to bed. But my mom, if I'm over, I think she's staying up all night.
So they're coming to New York. They're coming to New York next week, you said?
Yes. They try to make just about every East Coast matchup. So I'll be seeing them in New York on Monday or Tuesday.
I think when I saw you last summer, when I went up to when the Nats played the D-backs, UVA just played in the World Series. I think you were talking about how, obviously some other guys in the clubhouse went to UNC or obviously other schools maybe that were in Omaha at that time. What is that like at the big league level when your alma mater kind of makes that run, whether it's in obviously baseball or it's basketball in the NCAA tournament, something like that? What is that like amongst the clubhouse with other guys, schools, and the banter that goes along there?
It's really fun, especially when you're around some ACC guys like Gallen is a UNC guy, and it's nice to have Paven with me so we can kind of gang up on everyone else. But the basketball program, hopefully we'll be back soon. But this March Madness, I kind of just took a step back, didn't really say too much. And just hoping all the programs continue to excel because it's fun. It's fun wearing some gear to the field and talking smack.
How much do you keep up when you can? Obviously, it's kind of like your parents on the other side of the country, which obviously UVA is on over here on the East Coast. But how much do you keep up with UVA baseball and follow along?
I follow on social media. I was actually, before I got on this call, the game from last night was on like ESPNU or whatever it is. And for like 2 innings, I thought it was live. I thought it was just a Friday 1 o'clock game. And then I realized it's pretty dark, but I saw we got the win. But I'm always keeping tabs, whether it's watching the highlights on like Instagram or something, or just, checking the box scores. But, we'll always be rooting for them.
All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap things up. Jake, I know you got to get to the ballpark. You're living that big league lifestyle now. I'm sure that's a tough adjustment, right?
Yeah, I got some time. Hopefully there's not too much traffic going to the field, but
and what's the weather like? What's that?
I said I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, man. What's the weather like out there in Phoenix right now?
It's starting to get hot. It's probably 85, 90 today, and then we're just going to slowly creep up to 115. So people talk about the dry heat. 115 it's 115.
Yeah, it's still 115.
Yeah, it's
hot. Close the roof, right?
Yeah, close the roof. The ball tends to carry a little more when the roof is open, so we try to ride that roof open for as long as we can.
All right, man. Well, we will let you go. For Jake, for Andrew, I'm Damon. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here on 1186, the podcast. We will see you next time.
Thanks for having me, guys.